All right, YouTube, this Detroit's HPTV coming to you on a Monday morning. Before we get started, I want to address some things. I did a video on Roland Martin, and the race baiters got in my comments talking about, oh, you talking about another brother, or you talking about a black man, and whatever. It's what the race baiter said. Now, the reason I don't like race baiting on this channel and I don't race bait is because most of these people don't know who they are. You know what I'm saying? First of all, I'm almost 60 years old. My grandmother passed away at 96. Her father passed away and he was over 100 years old. I remember growing up in the South and we used to eat red clay with my aunt Top. We had jars of red clay that we used to eat. I don't worry about things like Big Pharma because I've never, ever went and bought what you call medicine. Even to this day, if I get sick, my medicine will be handmade by somebody I know. I take stuff like golden seal, echinacea. I've never taken medicine. No, for no reason. I wasn't raised that way. I know who I am. See, they talk all this black race baiting stuff. Let me show you something. This is black. This color is black. Do I look black? My grandmother never told me I was black. My mother never told me I was black. And they never told me that we got off any slave ship. My grandmother's grandfather, he was hung. You know what I mean? His name was William Mapp. They called him Billy Mapp. And he was hung in Mount Bayou, Mississippi, a place near Bahia. I can trace all of my ancestors all the way back to 1806. And I don't call them ancestors because I've been in this country, me and my family, since the inception of this country. So when I see people like Roland Martin and Joy Reid and these people from other places come here and try to co-opt civil rights movement and co-opt the people that's here, I speak out against it because I know most people don't know who they are. Most people don't know that there was confederations in this country before there was the United States. You ever heard of the Six Nations, the Haudenosaunee? Did you know that there was Algonquins and Mohawks that fought the French, fought the British, and fought with the British on the side of the British against the colonialists? Did you know that there was Cherokees that actually owned slaves? Do you really know the history of this country? So when they start race baiting, it's bothersome. I know a lot of y'all should be tired of people like Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib. They come here second generation Americans and they want to co-opt everything and tell you what you should believe and who you are. They can't do that with me. I know who I am. So I can speak boldly. You know what I'm saying? No, you see this? I'm from Detroit. Really, I'm from Highland Park, Michigan. I know everything about where I'm from. You know what I mean? And I didn't get off no slave ship. None of my ancestors got off no slave ships. You understand that? So when I hear these bootlegs off the Democratic plantation with their rhetoric, it's insulting. It's insulting to any American as we enter this election cycle and they trying to eradicate the rights of the Constitution, the rights of confederacies, the rights of what really makes us Americans and make us strong as Americans with conviction. I think there's a lack of information and a lack of knowledge. So before we get off into the clip I'm going to show you, I want to read you something out of the Constitution. Last week, I did the preamble where we got we the people, why we say we the people on this channel. Then I read the First Amendment last week to you also. But see, there's another one under attack this week. Let me read it to you. This is the Fourth Amendment. The right of the people to be secure in their person, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated. No warrant shall ensue, but upon probable cause, supported by an oath or affirmation, in particular describing the place to be searched and the person or things to be seized. Now, why is that relevant? Because they just passed a law saying that FISA can monitor and probe and spy on American citizens. That's illegal. To violate your privacy, it's illegal. But that just passed, just like the one violating the First Amendment. So, without further ado, let's get off into this video. This for fair use in the 1976 Copyright Act, commentary, educational purposes, and the First Amendment, what we have left of it. Check this out.
Just days after Congress voted to extend FISA, we're already seeing how it's being deployed to infringe upon the constitutional rights of American citizens. The first target won't surprise you. First, a quick recap. FISA, or the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, allows the government to engage in mass warrantless surveillance of communications, including phone calls, emails, text messages, and other types of electronic methods. Technically, Section 702 can only be used to spy on foreign targets, but in practice, intelligence agencies and the FBI have been able to backdoor searches on Americans by applying selective search terms to an enormous database of communications it has already collected legally through Section 702 of FISA. Communications from Americans that have been caught up as part of the searches on foreign parties. The FISA court already found this practice to constitute government overreach in a case last year. The FBI was found to have abused its surveillance authority to investigate both Black Lives Matter protesters and January 6th connected individuals. Now, FISA Section 702 was set to expire at the end of 2023, but the Senate voted 60-34 to reauthorize the Surveillance Act after the House passed the bill 273 to 174 along bipartisan lines. Now, recall that Trump-aligned Republicans like Marjorie Taylor Greene were furious over this, going so far as to threaten Mike Johnson's speakership gavel over this vote. What is the difference, Marjorie Taylor Greene tweeted, between Speaker Johnson and Speaker Nancy Pelosi? But despite the fact that that Trump blessed the vote after initially saying that Republicans should, quote, kill FISA, Donald Trump is now affirming that Johnson is a very good person who did what he had to do given the slim majorities in the House. Indeed, there seems to be no accountability for the bipartisan betrayal of American Fourth Amendment rights on either side of the aisle. The New York Times published a guest editorial.
As I just read for you, it's the Fourth Amendment. Now, how can last week they pass a law that undermines the First Amendment? This week they come with another law that undermines, I said last week the first. This week it's the Fourth Amendment. Think about this, as citizens. The next, what is going to be the fifth, which is due process, the fifth and the 14th due process clauses. As we be distracted with everything that's going on with these protesters, with these foreign nationals, with the bootlegs on the Democratic plantation, race baiting, throwing out red herrings as distractions to the people. What's really going on? Are we really paying attention? If you're a subscriber to this channel, please become a member. Please like, share, and subscribe these videos. Because as I said last week, This channel is being undermined because of the nature of the content that I'm giving you guys. So think about everything that you're seeing. I'm gonna let you finish listening to this.
By Bush National Security Advisor Matthew Waxman and Adam Klein, compelling us to believe that government surveillance keeps us safe. The same rationale used by Mike Johnson to justify his flip flop on the issue. And now, just a little over a week after the FISA reauthorization was signed into law, that premise has been disproven in the most dystopian of ways. FISA has been repeatedly and routinely used to spy on American citizens, including protesters. And it probably will not shock you to learn that in advance of the FISA vote, numerous American, Jewish, and pro Israel organizations urged Congress to reauthorize FISA for the purpose of spying on foreign involvement in domestic anti Semitic events. According to recent reporting from the American Prospect, the letter cited the alleged rise of anti Semitism since October 7th and makes, quote, unfounded connections to foreign threats inside the U.S. as justification for warrantless spying on American citizens. Republican Ohio Representative Mike Turner advocated for FISA reauthorization on the basis that New York anti war protests had links to Hamas, applying that their communications should be tapped. One of the signatories of the letter, the Anti-Defamation League, has been so open about characterizing any criticism of Israel or Zionism as anti-Semitic that CNN's national security analyst says she can no longer rely on ADL data monitoring anti-Semitism because CEO Jonathan Greenblatt was, quote, no longer able to define it in a way that allowed for important disagreement. She cited Greenblatt's retweets just yesterday about how student anti-war protests were pro-Hamas encampments, and said that as a result, she'll have to rely on FBI data instead. Greenblatt has also accused student protesters of being Iranian proxies in a recent MSNBC appearance, without evidence, of course. Now, the Anti-Defamation League that successfully advocated for, quote, more severe crackdown by law enforcement against campus encampments, according to the American Prospect, seems to have gotten what it wanted.
I was telling you guys when this first started, whoever's manipulating these students is being used as a tool to undermine the citizens of this country. You know, they're attacking their free speech. These students are protesting, like I said, over a war that's been going on since before I was born in a foreign country. You know, one thing, if you know the history of this country, we were never constructed and united to be the international police. And as I said before, when you look at the race baiters and people who have a gripe with the government, they being manipulated as well because they are supporting the undermining of the Constitution, which is supposed to secure us all. They would rather give up their rights to Big Brother for crumbs from the table of the Democratic Party and globalists. It's a sellout. It's a betrayal of this nation. You know what I mean? And like I said to you before, they already had people in this country establishing nations. You ever heard of the Six Nations? The Iroquois? You know what I mean? This country has a deep and rich history that's being blurred because they keep putting these people in office who really have no connection to this land or to what this country has went through. Yeah, this country went through slavery. This country went through the massacre of Native Americans. This country went through all kind of things to get to where it was supposed to go. But in the meantime, you know how the Constitution said to build a more perfect union, that's being undermined by government officials because their biggest fear is that we will get past the race baiting and we will unite based on the fact of us all being citizens. See, you can't say Black American and white American and Korean American and whatever. Either you're American or you're not. You know what I mean? So when you hear, certain people talk about Pan-Africanism, I consider that a hustle. You know what I mean? Because nobody is going back to the continent of Africa to do anything. Why would we stand with these other countries? They have no love or connection to this soil. They only come here for money, capitalism. You know what I mean? The pursuit of the American dream. While the American dream turns to a nightmare for the citizens of this country, the natural inhabitants. And like I told you before, when they get in my comments, I don't know who these agents are. The first thing they want to call me is, oh, you a seller. How can I sell out you? You a brother. You not my brother. All of my siblings are deceased. I'm the last of my siblings. There are no more. So what would make you my brother? Somebody like Roland Martin from Haiti, somebody like Joy Reid from someplace Guyana or wherever she's from. You know what I mean? And AOC and the rest of them that come over here and co-opt the country to talk radical as if they know anything. I mean, what are they studying? They're supposed to be scholars. To me, they don't look very educated. To me, they look like puppets and pawns and tools of globalists. And we have to understand that they don't have our best interest, nor the country's best interest at heart. Let's continue to look at this and figure out why we're being spied on. It should be easy to see
how this works. FISA and other violative arms of the national security apparatus are justified by their supporters on the grounds of alleged national security threats. If FISA can't be rationalized without a security threat, then you have to guarantee there's a security threat, even if it's manufactured. That's how we get false flag reports of attacks on Jewish students, like the now infamous flagpole eye stabbing incident, or anti-Semitic epithets being screamed as provocations by pro-Israel supporters. It's how we got former Harvard President Larry Summers arguing that the Palestinian flag in and of itself, quote, connotes anti-Semitic terror, and why kids praying together on campus were described as Sharia by Megyn Kelly earlier this week. Greenblatt's Iranian-linked co-eds serve the same purpose as weapons of mass destruction once did. The claim justifies violence against innocent Arabs, and if every criticism of Israel, a foreign country, is rendered anti-Semitism by our government's redefinition campaign, then there's no limit to what can be justified in the name of Israel. Just this week, protecting Israel from criticism for its ethnic cleansing campaign against Gaza has justified the tasing, violent assault, and arrest of hundreds of college students and their professors legally and peacefully engaging in constitutionally protected speech. Now, the prospect warns an American student or faculty member who communicates with family or friends in another country could see their communications captured via Section 702 and monitored by the government. And the authoritarian infringement on our constitutional rights doesn't end there. 21 Democrats, most of whom aren't even from New York, are trying to intimidate Columbia University into infringing on the free assembly of its students by weaponizing the Civil Rights Act of 1964, saying that protesting an ethnic cleansing campaign being executed by a foreign government is equivalent to threatening Jewish students on the basis of their ethnic or religious identity. As Glenn Greenwald put it, Democratic members of Congress have long been arguing that any ideas they call hate speech and that they claim make others feel unsafe should be banned from campus. They're doing it again to protect Israel. The difference is many on the right are 100% on board with them. And he's right. Republicans are in lockstep with Democrats on this. Listen to Robert O'Brien, Trump's national security advisor, who could easily be part of a new Trump administration, described student protests against the mass slaughter of tens of thousands of Palestinians, two-thirds of whom, I would remind you, are women and children.
I thought this is what my Jewish friends are going through every day. So if you're a student and you wear a kippah on campus, people are citing them with files, horrible things of you. It's not about Israel policy. It's about rank anti-Semitism and hatred of Jews. And it's the oldest prejudice. And somehow that's become legitimate. That's become normalized, that it's okay to hate Jews. And there's something very wrong with our country when that's happening on our college campuses and on other streets in New York and LA. And it's heartbreaking as an American to see that.
I call this the Hitler Youth because that's exactly what it is. And we've had the Hitler Youth before. There have been books written about the Third Reich and what happened on our universities and colleges.
A whopping 81% of voters under 34 disapprove of Israel's war on Gaza. 81%. Only 19% do approve. If criticizing Israel makes you Hitler Youth, then an entire generation, I guess, is a Third Reich, including the Jewish students who have been instrumental to these protests and who organized a little Passover Seder on Columbia's campus, like, how Nazis like to do. Maybe we should listen to Jewish students and professors like Susan Bernofsky about whether they feel unsafe.
I do not feel that this project is anti-Semitic in any way. I do feel that the students are highly critical of Israeli politics, and I do not believe that that is inherently anti-Semitic at all.
Indifferent to what Americans think, Bibi Netanyahu took a break from domestic protests against him failing to prioritize hostage relief to interfere with American politics. Let's listen to, again, a foreign leader dictating to American universities how they should or shouldn't protect our First Amendment rights that we are granted in our Constitution.
What's happening on America's college campuses is horrific. Anti-Semitic mobs have taken over leading universities. They call for the annihilation of Israel. They attack Jewish students. They attack Jewish faculty. This is reminiscent of what happened in German universities in the 1930s. It's unconscionable. It has to be stopped. It has to be condemned and condemned unequivocally. But that's not what happened. The response of several university presidents was shameful. Now, fortunately, state, local, federal officials, many of them have responded differently, but there has to be more. More has to be done. It has to be done not only because they attack Israel. That's bad enough. Not only because...
So you mean to tell me that we have a foreign national telling us what we should do as it relates to the First Amendment? Think about everything I've been saying and think about we the people as patriots of this country. This is why I continually tell you to become members and subscribe, because can you see where this is going? Who is he to tell us what we should do while at the same time advising on taking our liberties? Where is this going, people?
They want to kill Jews wherever they are. That's bad enough. It's also, when you listen to them, it's also because they say not only death to Israel, death to the Jews, but death to America. And this tells us that there's an anti-Semitic surge here that has terrible consequences.
No one said death to Israel, death to Jews, and death to America. That's a blatant attempt to try to conflate your interests with his. Once you hear that, the similarities between Israel's talking points, the talking points of American elected officials, seems hauntingly similar. It begs the question, whose interests exactly are our Congress members looking out for? When American kids are being body slammed to the ground, having snipers take aim at them in defense of Israel, when the surveillance state is empowered via FISA to spy on American communications without a warrant, the question ceases to be, does Israel have a right to defend itself? And becomes, do Americans still have the protection of the Bill of Rights on our own land? We call this from the beginning. It's part of my critique on how certain kinds of investigative reports like the Twitter files have been framed. Historically, in America, the left has always been an early and significant target of these kinds of attacks. Any liberals who were not paying attention to the importance of investigations like the Twitter files because they bought into it being a partisan agenda were wrong. People who have chosen to ignore legal efforts to bar the right to protest, as just happened in 3 southeastern states. Anybody who has been ignoring that several states have tried to force you to not be able to get a government contract unless you disavow BDS, infringing on your ability to participate in a protest movement, which again is your First Amendment right. All of these things have been accumulating over time, rising prison sentences and penalties for people who are engaging in nonviolent protests. All of this has been gearing up. The funding of Cop City and the hand over fist increased funding of police departments following the murder of George Floyd. All of this is a steady infringement on Americans' rights to do what we thought were foundational principles. And we're seeing the justification loud and clear. People are screaming from the rooftop. Why do we have to ban Twitter? Because the kids are seeing too much violence. Sorry, TikTok, you're right, sorry. The kids are seeing too much violence on social media coming out of Gaza, and it's causing them to have a negative impression of the Israeli government. And what are we willing to do? What are our government leaders willing to do to prevent us from forming those organic negative opinions? Ban an entire social media app, conflate anti-Semitism with anti-Zionism and a congressional mandate, and on down the list. And now we're seeing how FISA is being deployed to target protesters, just like it was used to spy on people connected to January 6th, just like it was used to spy on people connected to the Black Lives Matter protests.
I'm gonna stop there, and you can see the whole rest of it, the conversation, in the community section. But this isn't the first time that the federal government has spied. Look at the COINTELPRO, the counterintelligence program that they used during the civil rights movement against Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, and others. So at this point in time, as I've been saying to you, the race baiters, such as people like Roland Martin and Joy Reid, they have a vested interest in undermining the citizens and dividing the citizens based on the color of their skin. You know what I mean? And that's why in the beginning I asked you, do I look black? I showed you what black looks like. That's black. So is that how I look? Really? So I want you people to stay posted, stay vigilant, keep your eyes open, keep your head on a swivel, pay attention. Saying unto you out of Detroit, salute to all patriots. Like, share, and subscribe. Peace.